Welcome, everybody to Hot Program. What's up, Nano? See, Nano knows what's up. Nano's like, hey, you guys are just on time. Now we're a bit late today. How are y'all doing? I'm your host with the most from the East Coast, Pocketlocker, and of course, I'm joined by my OneBlack Friend. And my OneBlack Friend, I gotta show you something. Something really big happened this week that I don't know if you caught. And so I'm gonna go ahead and play this for you because I mean this was big. This was a big deal in our community. All right, let me make this full screen. Let me share my screen with you. All right, let's unmute this. Turn up the volume because nobody's gonna be able to hear that. All right. Boom. Here we go. Now, folks, we've got what view did you go to? That view's lame. Do this one instead. All right, here we go, my OneBlack Friend. All right, let's see what's going on because I can't hear anything. All right, that means probably that my audio device has been switched.
Oh, yes. I have so
Can you hear him? I just paused it to see if you can hear him.
Yeah, I hear them.
Mm-hmm. All right, great.
many black friends. I get you guys mixed up.
Oh. You're so many one black friend. I love
No, there's Jay, there's you, Lamar, and there's my one black, the real one black friend. You know who I'm talking about?
Nope.
Did he even tell me his real name?
Nope,
No.
probably not.
No. Wasn't he? Okay, what do you have to say? What are things that bother you?
I'll make this real quick.
All right. So that was the thing,
Is that another my one black friend?
That's Lamar. Yeah, that's one of Pine Creek's other rare, black callers. But Cameron, one of our mods, hit me up and said, "Oh, you got to hear this. Doug mentioned, you as a," and so I wanted to share that with you. We made Pine Creek's shortlist.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, we made a short list of black friends. So not all is lost.
The highest form of success has been achieved.
So the thing I wanted to talk about this week is stuff that we just can't seem to get away from. And one of the mistakes I've learned that I've made in the past is sort of talking about current events a little bit too late, right? Like it's no longer current. Like that was the thing we were all raging about last week. You should have talked about it last week. So I thought this week would be a good week to talk about, everything that's going on with the Supreme Court. All right, what are you, guys, what's going on with my audio? They said there's something sounding off with my audio.
Leaning heavily on the comment section for things like this. You sound fine to me, but again, only in one ear. So YouTube Punk, he's coming through in my left ear of my headphones.
It might just be that I have too much gain on this channel. I'll worry about it later. I'll tune it down.
Okay, Nano says it sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay.
You see, all that needs to happen is Nano's listening to it in both ears.
Yeah, exactly.
So it has like his right ear, because normally I listen with one ear only.
Yeah, normally I'll check it out. It's so weird, dude. I spent literally all day yesterday checking sound on a test account. Like literally that's all I did. I spent like 8 hours literally streaming to no one just so I could test the sound. So you do that. Yep, I turned down the gain just a tad. That's exactly what I did.
Thanks for describing it.
That was my first guest. But yeah, thanks for letting us know. And they said my one black friend sounds fine. All right, good. Yeah, it's not a lack of testing, folks. Jesus, I spent all day testing this stuff. All right, so let me pull up the thing I have pulled up. I just got to see. I had two things pulled up. One of them is better than the other, and we'll go with the better one. Okay, maybe this is it. Yes. Okay, this is the one. All right, let me pull this up. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right, y'all. This is where the title of the episode comes from. Wait, hold on. I'm on the wrong thing. Go on this thing. Do that. Y'all see that? The YOLO court is how University of Michigan law professor Leah Littman describes them. You only live once. All right, so let's talk about the YOLO court, right? Because that was our title for today. And we're just going to go with what is going on, right? So just to briefly catch everybody up in case you don't pay attention to the politics and all that stuff, is this current Supreme Court is coming to the end of their term. And as such, they've released their kind of flurry of last minute opinions before they dip dive and socialize, all right, for the rest of the summer. And, this court has been controversial for many years, actually, right? Because it started with sort of Roberts' appointment and, George Bush didn't really win the popular election. So people weren't too high on John Roberts. And then since then, right, we've had Obama's nominee. They kind of blocked. We'll use blocked for now. I'm trying to keep it PG. And then, they snuck in a couple of Trump appointees, but remember, Trump didn't win the popular election.
Either time.
Right.
Actually, he lost the second election many times over.
And so, he got his Supreme Court nominee in there, right? And then he kind of snuck one in the 11th hour. And then I think this is part of it too that people don't talk about. Is that once Biden took over, Biden made the historic move of nominating KBJ, right, Ketanji Brown Jackson, which is great. But y'all got to remember, it's she's going to switch up the numbers a little bit. She's not going to make them, even or, Democratic majority. But I think part of this is before she even gets in there and starts talking to people and starts writing really articulate dissenting opinions and, people start to love her and she becomes America's favorite judge. Yo, we got to get this theocracy bills out there right now. Let's really do what we came to do. So I think what you're seeing, folks, is them being very strategic about the timing of all this. This has been something that's been slow building. The Roe versus Wade thing in particular for 50 years, but this sort of strategic pro-religion wave of, opinions, right, is definitely something that at least for the last couple terms in the last few years, these people have been working towards very aggressively, right? You got to remember one of the big promises that got Trump the support of the conservatives who otherwise would never support somebody like Donald Trump was the promise to only nominate pro-choice judges, and that's exactly what he did. All right. So this article, not going to read the whole thing. Obviously, if you want to, head over to the Washington Post. But I'm going to grab some highlights that allow us to sort of be the basis of our conversation for today. So first, the avalanche of change achieved by Supreme Court's conservative majority this term spans the breadth of American life, and its work draws comparisons to the most momentous decisions in the court's history. In a signature moment, erasing the constitutional right to abortion extended by the court nearly 50 years ago in Roe v. Wade would have been enough to highlight the term. The court's ruling in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization was the rare decision whose impact was felt within hours as Republican-led states began prohibiting elective abortions and will play out over years. But the justices of what scholars say is one of the most conservative courts in decades did far more than that. They continued a string of victories for conservative religious groups that dismantle the old rules regarding the role of religion in public life. After a decade of Supreme Court inaction, they expanded Second Amendment jurisprudence to bless the right to carry a weapon outside the home And in a final flourish, the court's dominant 6-justice block limited the ability of government agencies to issue sweeping regulations of health, safety, and the environment without specific authorization from Congress. Going into the term, the biggest question was not so much in what direction the court was headed, but how quickly it was traveling, said Gregory G. Garr, who represented George W. Bush's administration at the Supreme Court. Now we know, fast. With Justice Thomas, 74, the oldest member of the coalition, and Amy Coney Barrett, the youngest, at 50, the term should be seen as much as the beginning of an era at the court as the culmination of years of work to solidify a conservative majority. Already, the court has decided to revisit next term whether universities can use race as one factor in making admission decisions, something previous Supreme Court have allowed repeatedly. It will decide whether a designer of wedding websites can tell same-sex couples she will not work for them. The dispute is billed as a free speech case, but was spurred by the designer's religious beliefs about marriage. And as the justice split for parts unknown Thursday, they dropped another bombshell. They will consider a case that could radically change the way states set rules for federal elections, giving state legislatures almost total control over drawing the congressional districts in which candidates run and the rules of voting, even if state courts think they violate the state constitution. So more, got to make that gerrymandering easier, and here we go. The YOLO court is how University of Michigan law professor Leah M. Littman describes it. You only live once. So we've got some other stuff I want to briefly mention, which is, in addition to this, there's also been the case involving the coach who was like praying at the 50-yard line for the high school football games, and they asked him to stop, and he was eventually, they didn't renew his contract. They said, he didn't do a great job. They didn't really like his performance. So he wasn't even fired for that, but he sued basically because they asked him not to do it, right? And they've sort of sided with him, even though he was praying loudly and in public and, using it as sort of the culmination of the big football game, which anybody knows high school football knows Friday Night Lights. That's a huge thing going on in the community. It's like turning the school into a church. And it certainly isn't a private thing. Go ahead, my one black friend. I just wanted to set us up and it's all yours.
Thank you. Je dois reprendre le cours de français. I'm going to have to reserve French lessons. It's been good. Been good living in the United States. It's been really good to me. They are no longer united. This is a target-rich environment, as they say. Jesus, who is no stranger to controversy or the Old Testament, who I don't even think existed, but as we clearly know, many people are very convinced he did, said in Matthew chapter 6, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. Oh, fudge. Let's go back to it. Okay. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do or in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Prayer. Verse 5, and when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners and to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Again, here is another instance where the Bible clearly contradicts Christian culture in America. It literally says do the opposite thing.
Yes. Yes.
And it doesn't matter. When I tell people that it is irrelevant what the Bible actually intends or said, I get people who just don't believe me. But things like this happen. It's right there. I didn't write that.
Right.
This is not in need of interpretation. This is very plain language. Even in the King James, it sounds slightly prettier, but it's saying the same thing. Jesus, if he existed, and let's be honest,
I didn't.
Suspect.
It's pretty sus. Pretty sus. Pretty sus. Pretty sus.
Yeah, if I had an intro today, a man who says there's a sus. Jesus. For sure.
We got to go with that. The man who puts the sus in Jesus. I like that.
But for certain, it is clear that the Bible, which is the authority, I don't know that Jesus existed, but the Bible does.
Exactly.
It says don't do what this coach was doing. It is literally saying that's all you get, buddy. So if he wasn't a coach that had a rather winning record with the team, and I don't know what his record was, he might be the best coach ever. His team might have lost every game, but wow, he really inspired those kids, which might be more valuable than winning the game.
Right.
Making better people. He was wrong to go out there in the middle of that field, according to Jesus here, and pray. He was just wrong. I sent this around to like 5 people on the Twitters. I'm sure because I don't give a rip about Twitter. I don't know how even people reacted to it. I'm assuming they cared less than I did. I guess I cared. I guess I have to say that. I actually cared, even though it's not my religion. And I guess those who watch the show and you Pocket Locker have probably noticed this. I actually want to hold them accountable. If they're going to be Christian, let me hold you accountable for trying to live up to this.
So what you're saying is like and this came up on Believe It or Not. You like Believe It or Not, right? You know their podcast, right?
I think that's a great podcast.
They did one recently about like why do we care what other people think, or why do I care what other people think, right? And this was sort of the answer was because they do stuff like this, because it's never just the private belief, right? It's always the private belief plus how it makes people act. And he went to a lot of the sexual exploitation stuff, although, you know, he could have gone to the sort of theocracy and public sphere as well. And what I hear you saying is you're not even doing it right. You know,
you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. You're doing Christianity. I don't believe in Christianity, but if you're going to tell us that this is your motivation for doing all of this, then this is the exact opposite of what the Bible says.
It is the exact opposite.
And what do we even do about that? Because I don't think, and again, like we've talked about this a little bit, we know Christians aren't reading the Bible. And it's sort of like a brand identity, right? It's like I'm on Team Jesus. I gotta wear the jersey.
It's the jersey. Like I say, they got the jersey and never played the game.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful number 34 Walter Payton jersey from the Chicago Bears days when he was alive and played for the Bears. Well, it's not that old, but that's what it harkens back to. I was never at his level. I was never Walter Payton. And I never played the game as well as he did. You know, I played neighborhood football. Maybe I can get my ghetto Heisman
right
one day for playing in the ghetto where most of us went out for a pass, you know. But I think what was sad for me and what made it so easy to leave Christianity was when I kept seeing sweetness. Yeah, that's right, Randy. When I kept seeing how little it actually mattered. Let me just give an anecdote. So it was my turn to speak in church when give my testimony, if you will, on 9/11, 2001, when those guys hit the towers and the towers fell. And I said to the minister, I think it's more important that you talk about what happened today. And his reply was, no, give your testimony. And I was like, how can you be serious? This is one of the most devastating things that will happen in the lifetimes of the people in that room.
Right.
No. I'm supposed to tell them like I struggle with masturbation. Other than
Right.
I'm all right.
Yeah.
I don't really need to steal from anybody or anything.
Right.
That's not my way. I don't want anybody dead or anything like that. I don't have enemies. I'm gainfully employed, made more than most of the people in that room. That's all right. And yet those people didn't know what kind of America they were going to get after that day. Neither did I. But it was more important for me to talk about the things I struggle with. And I'm like, I can't believe he's serious.
Well, during the Believe It or Not podcast, one of the things they showed was a priest who was asked, like a Catholic priest actually, who was asked to like address all of the, sexual controversies in the church and stuff like that. And his response was literally like, well, I really shouldn't do that because if I did that at this point, I'd just be virtue signaling. And I'm looking at him like, bro, you're a Catholic priest. Like
that's virtue.
Virtue signaling is your job. You saw that? Yeah,
the whole thing is virtue signaling. It's spiking the football day after day. Virtue signaling.
Yeah, and they're like, no, I can't.
Catholic priest.
But that's the thing. They never want to take a stand, and it's kind of the same thing I felt. And this was one of my slights on the liberal Christianity. It's one of my slights against even my mother and my family's faith is, like you said, the preaching. When stuff happens that is changing our world, that is changing our safety, taking our rights, like literally like do or die, knuckle up time, right? There's nothing to be said. But if you're, rubbing the old wishing stone too much or having sex with your, fiance before you marry her, or, God forbid, God forbid you should do something like that, or, eating the wrong foods or whatever, hey, we got to have an intervention. We really ought to talk about this. Let's pray on this person. Let's lay hands on them, all of this stuff. But if they're not willing to take a vaccine in the middle of a pandemic, no, we don't really have anything to say about that. Oh, they trying to overthrow the government? Yeah, we don't want to talk about that in church, do we? We don't want to talk about that in church.
I can start bringing those scriptures out right now. Take that darn vaccine, because the government's saying take the vaccine. You got to trust the government. That's in Romans, right? Don't overthrow the government. That's in Romans. God put those people there. He didn't tell you to take over. He put those people there. That's God's will that they're there. Sorry, don't like Fauci. But God wants Fauci there. Right. The moment God doesn't want Fauci there, Fauci will either retire, drop dead, or quit, or be fired. That's it.
So the question for me is, how many sermons are you going to hear about it? How many sermons are going to be preached about that? How many sermons are going to talk about, how? Because I admit, Roe v. Wade decision is awful. I think a lot of liberal Christians don't support it. How many of your churches will preach about it? The answer, in my opinion, again, I'm not going to be there this week, is very, very few. How many are going to preach against the pastor, praying in public and go to the same scriptures? You didn't give them not one, but you had 4 or 5 scriptures right there that they could go to. Right there. They're right there. They're right there. They won't. Right? And so for me, that is a huge, huge part of this. Go ahead.
I reached out to Sean McDowell via Twitter, which I'm impressed that something like this exists, quite honestly. If it didn't exist, well, actually, why didn't Jesus make this 2,000 years ago?
What up, BS? What up, Tux? James, we see you guys. Appreciate y'all.
On 6/24, Sean McDowell, no dummy, wrote, Roe is overturned. Amazing. He didn't put an exclamation point on there. I honestly never thought I would see this day. Didn't think he'd live that long. To which my reply to him was, would you be willing to adopt an unwanted child and pay higher taxes to cover the cost of raising and educated unwanted children? Sean McDowell, not flinching. Good on him. Whether I would or not is irrelevant to the fact that abortion unjustly ends the life of a preborn human being. And my internal immediate reaction to that is, dude, again, here's another person. He's supposed to what? Defend the father, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to care for the fatherless and the widow. And he doesn't answer my question. Whether I would or not is irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. His homeboy, Jesus, there were shirts. Jesus is my homeboy. I saw them. He's supposed to be accountable to that kid and look after that kid.
I love
He's
Casey.
supposed to be willing to invite that kid into his home and feed and care and take care of that kid and educate that kid. He's supposed to be at that level. Like I said to Rebecca, if Jesus came down, he would be mistaking me for a Christian. He would be. He's like, wait a minute. You're not one of my people. Like, no, dude, I didn't even think you were real.
Right.
By the way, can you turn this into like zero sugar root beer? Actually heal my diabetes.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. I love Casey A. Randy's comment that they treat the Bible like I do. They just ignore it. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, round of applause. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh. Well, look, I've said it for years. Religion is useful.
It really is.
Sean McDowell, and he's got to make a living doing something. He might not be an excellent used car salesman. I don't know, but I think religion has been good to him. There's someone, Peachy replied, I'm not surprised you answered that since you don't believe in carbon dating, that dinosaurs are not millions of years old, and that you'd force your wife to have the baby if she was assaulted. Makes sense. You misunderstand a clump of cells is not a person. Now, I'm someone, for those who are new to our broadcast, I'm not pro-abortion.
Right. That's one of our differences.
Yeah. I am pro-choice.
Right. He thinks abortion should be legal, but, sort of the last option. But to his credit, you're willing to step up. You're willing to adopt the kid. You're willing to help out. You've made the offer. And you know that's not the same as carrying the baby to term, but you are willing to do what you can if somebody were to make that decision. And I think that's important. And me, I'm just so people know, it's not to rehash the argument. It's just I'm pro-abortion. I think it's a evolved part of our strategy. I think it's something you see all throughout nature. And so I think I think it's wishful thinking. I would love to live in a world where, there was no need for that type of behavior, but I don't think as a biologist that's the world we live in. So that's where we're at with it. But this is something that I think, there was that great Jordan Klepper on this, right? For people who don't know, Jordan Klepper is a Daily Show correspondent where he was going around asking these sort of anti-choice mothers, would they be willing to adopt? And essentially it was like, no, or I've already got my own, it was a typical sort of list of excuses. Mm-hmm. Also, he said, Nano said that Dr. Kip Davis has a great video on Josh McDowell, which we should review sometime.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested in doing that. The other thing is, when you were saying that Josh McDowell was celebrating this, the thing that popped into my mind, Sean, was so was Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene had the whole, this is the best day, it's a miracle, thank Jesus. And I'm always like, you got to be careful when you're in league with her. That's like a red flag. If I'm doing a dance and Marjorie Taylor Greene joins in and starts dancing along, I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Something's wrong here.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene doing the stanky leg.
Yeah. We gotta wait. I've done something real wrong if she's decided to join in with me. But here's something I think is interesting, and it comes back to this idea where this is gonna sound a little bit weird, but I'm just thinking this now. we have to take the theology and the religion seriously, even if the believers don't.
I'll agree with that. And by the way, not all of Marjorie Taylor Greene's ideas would be bad.
Right, of course.
I don't know where she
Yeah,
stands
right.
on everything, but surely
Right.
she's got some truly
Yeah,
great
she
ideas.
supports
And
health
maybe,
and fitness and likes vegetables and all that good stuff.
and maybe you can never get around to them because of these popular ones.
Yeah,
seem
that's
more
a really good
important.
point.
So the ones that would really push society forward in a way that is unifying and ideas that would last 1,000 years or more, we might not ever see those come from her because these other more, I would say, sexy things, if you will,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
what tends to be more important. I think it's sad. Like when I get this response from Sean McDowell, I'm glad I got a response, but I'm appalled that it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing because, again, to go back to your point, I think you see, I take this Bible seriously, this book with a talking bush, talking donkey. It's got what else talks that probably shouldn't.
A snake, maybe, depending on your
donkey,
interpretation.
snake. Now, see, but I'm smart enough to know the snake's an allegory.
Right.
I'm smart enough to know the donkey's an allegory. Right? MTG
Yeah.
is
Just the sexy girl. Well, that's because of my intro, the sexy boy thing. Yeah, I get that. And to be honest with you, I think that's part of it, right? Part of the Republican playbook now is to pick somebody who they feel is attractive or like meets the, Republican aesthetic. Yeah, like that's part of their thing. And to be honest with you, it's kind of smart because part of what made Barack Obama electable was that he hadn't really been in the Senate that long. And what that meant was he had done a lot of good community organizing work, but there really wasn't a laundry list of like dirt on him in the Senate, right? And that's kind of what the Republicans have done. Like, don't go with these, Republicrats that have been around for like 30 years. Everybody's already sick of them. Give us like a young, fresh, pretty face. Nobody really knows, they don't really have any history, right? So then they can just kind of grandstand, hey, we're anti-CRT and we're gonna own the libs, right? And they're like, yeah, we just want some people to own the libs. Ah, you're cute and you own the libs, great. We'll go with you. So in some sense, like it's a viable political tactic, right? It's not my favorite, but it works.
Again, because I've said this before too. The reason why our country is the way it is and isn't better is because of people like me that won't run.
Mm-hmm.
Got the ideas, got leadership qualities. There's a quality of life I don't want to give up. But
yeah, I'm just saying I agree.
I'm trying to look around and I'm like, you know what? You're not going to be able to have that here.
Oh.
If I don't preserve it for other people,
you won't get it for you.
Myself. That's right. It's not going to be available in the United States of America.
Yeah, I'm kind of. That's crazy. Go ahead.
If this country becomes a theocracy, which some people think it should be, based on biblical values, which modern day Jews don't even practice in mass.
Right.
Think about that. They moved on. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to what?
Go back.
Not we, but there are people who think it's a good idea to go back to those practices.
Right.
How can it be?
Do you think I think there's like I guess they call it like the done and. Go ahead. Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you.
I gotta say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know the story of the prostitute, the woman, not the prostitute, the woman caught
in
adultery.
Yeah. There you go.
I know that story was added in like the 4th century, 3rd or 4th century. I forget which one. I know that it may not be, and is likely not, original to the Gospel of John text. Okay. In that story, which is a remarkable, beautiful story, in that story, the Jesus character defends this woman. He writes something on the ground. We're not sure what it is.
Right.
You listen to some sermons, they'll tell you. If I had to guess, it would be a skirt covereth a multitude of sins. So you can hide sins under your skirt.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. But he treats this woman with forgiveness, with kindness. He defends her from those who would do her harm. What? By putting forward Hebrew law. He stands in the way.
Right.
If all sin is the same, if I steal a piece of candy, me and that kid that shot up the school, we're the same. In God's eyes, we are the same. If Jesus can step in and protect this woman from the law, essentially from himself, right? Because he's supposed to be the judge. God turned it over to him. If he can do that, then why do you see a need to make some of those old Hebrew laws in the United States?
Yeah,
I'll agree. It's not cool to murder. It's not. It's not cool to steal. It's not.
Yeah, so this gets quickly. There was a question earlier that I really wanted to address, but kind of just, the conversation moved on, which was but this kind of brings it back up. How do I avoid eye rolling when I'm attending a church service, especially if I'm playing?
Sleep, like a lot of people do.
Sleep, right? Yeah.
Sit near the back and sleep.
One, I kind of know it's kind of my, it's my job to stay focused and be attentive. The other thing is I tend to like stay in the back and like in the zone, right? So if the pastor just starts going off on a tangent, I'm just like, all right, let's think about the songs I got to close this thing out with. I kind of distract myself. But the real answer I want to give is speaking to this whole issue of taking this seriously. I see it as a tremendous opportunity. I often make jokes with people. I say, you're not about that cult life. What you got to remember, for me, this is like the people who disagree with me the most, who are on the other side of these things, saying, hey, Jay, come join us. Come see how it's like on the inside. I got a spot for you on stage. Look, you could play drums. All the people are nice. You could eat and chill with us afterwards, right? So what I get is a front row seat, right? When I started doing Late-Night Counter-Apologetics, I started with doing sermons from ministers. Why? Because I wanted to take people inside the church and see what it's like if you were sitting there in front of the minister, because now you hear them unfiltered. You're not hearing them in a debate with an atheist. You're not hearing them in a public forum where they're going to watch their words and tailor everything to make themselves sound reasonable. No, they're safe. They're in their safe space where they're amongst their brethren, and you're going to really hear what they say. You're going to hear how much they go off about porn and sex outside of marriage, but they ignore the insurrection. You're there. You're like, no, I'm not making this up. I'm there. I'm sitting there when they do it. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, they're ignoring right within the church itself, all the abuse that takes place there. I've heard stories of people having sex in the church, a minister having a number of women in the church that were not his wife available to him sexually.
Right.
We've all seen scandals where some minister is having sex with an underage child, male or female, in their congregation. We've heard these stories. And what happens? Those people get protected. I think it was Telltale who had a video, or maybe it was Believe It or Not, who also had a video of a preacher admitting that he sexually abused a 16-year-old.
Oh, yes. Years. And then they supported the church gathered around the minister.
Crowded around the minister. Now,
you got to see it to believe it.
I tend to not explain these things. I tend to not explain things about human behavior. And there's very good reasons why I tend not to. So when the minister is up there in front of the congregation and he says, praise God for years, and then the crowd gives some sort of cheer, that's who they see.
Yes.
They see that minister. Praise God. Ah! So the brain does this thing. Well, what am I seeing? And what am I hearing? It's combining all those sensory inputs, and it's making.
But wasn't that an expose on human behavior that you almost just had to see to believe? Because how often do you get it? Like, he gets up and gives the confession, they're with him, then she gives up and gives her thing, and the humanity strikes them, and they're with her, and they're like, right, and then he gets back up there, and he's like, well, I already told you this happened, and then they're just instantly shift modes. But we love you, Pastor, and then it's gather around, lay hands on him, pray for him, and she is sitting there crying, you can audibly hear
I heard the audio. I never watched the
sitting
video
there
in its
crying.
entirety. I saw a few seconds of it. Yeah, I only saw a few seconds because I mainly listen.
Sure,
to
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
I don't really watch very much YouTube unless it's car related.
Got you.
And if you know about LS swapping a 69 Firebird, talk to me. But yeah, it's one of those things where you can mentally program people over a short or long period of time because the human mind is exceedingly susceptible to suggestion, and it's not hard. It's not hard. And I really think a lot of these ministers may or may not have an understanding of how easy it is, so they don't know what power they have. And yet some, like the Kenneth Copelands, that guy is self-aware. You cannot convince me any different.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, though I don't agree with his methods, I have to call him brilliant because he is brilliant at what he does. Benny Hinn, I would say, is even more brilliant because he is ridiculous. Right? What he does is ridiculous. And it works. It's so effective. Why?
Yeah. It's like Tuck said, anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
Say that again?
Tuck said anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And so that's kind of to your point. If you're going to go the faith healer route, go all the way. This is kind of my case I've made that the apologists themselves are like the B tier. Like even the top apologists, they're B tier. Because if you get into if you're going to be a professional Christian, right, go all the way. The real money game is being a man of God. It's in the ministers, right? If you were to compare the William Lane Craigs of the world, the Jordan Peterson, you'd say, oh man, that guy's really big in the apologist world. You know, they're A-level apologists because of their businesses or whatever. Or Sean McDowell, right? Okay, well compare him to even like you said, like a Kenneth Copeland, like a Creflo Dollar, or what's the guy I'm always talking about with the big church in Houston?
Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen, right?
You're talking about Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen, right? If you're talking about Joel Osteen, right? There's no comparison between him and William Lane Craig, right? Joel Osteen is on William Lane Craig is on y'all invited me to this speaking engagement. I got paid well, and when it's a really nice thing, they bought me a first class ticket, right? That's how William Lane Craig gets down. Joel Osteen gets down private jet style, speaking to an arena full of people, right? So I'm just telling you, apologists, you're B tier. You're B tier. You got in the game. You got in a good game. It's like sweet with the money, but it's not the A-list. The A-list is for the real men of God. That's the real grift right there, right?
I wanted to do that. I don't know why I never got around to this. I wanted to do you remember the Budweiser commercials, Real Men of Genius? I wanted to do Real Men of Jesus. Real Men of Jesus. And talk about these guys, like the scandals and all that stuff, and why they're so amazing or not. What they done that was basically horrifying. And by the way, B.S. Lewis, your sense of humor is not lost on me. I can't keep up with the comment sections.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Hey, that's great.
Thank you for the correction. So,
Real Man of Jesus. Yeah, that's great.
Real Man of Jesus.
I remember that now. Yeah, that'd be really
Tonight
funny.
we present Creflo Dollar. Creflo Dollar. Yeah,
no, it's actually a really good idea. It's a good idea. We need some promo videos.
In 1,000 years, I'll get around to it. But you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait. I like this though. As an evolutionary biologist, I got to go with this one. Real Men of Genus. I don't know if he did that on purpose, but for a biologist, that's a good one. Oh man! All right, so
in the family of the hot program audience, that's well said.
Yeah, really good stuff. So one of my things with this that is honestly, I don't know what to do. I feel this frustration, and part of what I think I'm coming to is, oh my goodness, I don't even know. Wow. All right, so like based on what you said, this pains me to even think this way, but I almost feel like I need Christians to help with this thing. Like I feel like if I go and I say, hey, I'm an atheist and I'm really upset by you praying at the 50-yard line, you really ought not to do that. I just don't think anybody cares. Hey, I'm an atheist. Bodily autonomy is really important to me. You should make sure women have a federal right to abortion. I think most Christians are like, nah, we don't really care what you think, to be honest. We don't really. Anybody care what this atheist thinks over here?
You know, today was Sunday, and all across the world, how many women who were pregnant were asked by their priest to drink the water that brings the curse from Numbers 5? If you drink the water that brings the curse, if you could drink, they sweep the temple floor, and I don't remember precisely what the concoction consisted of, but water's added to it. And how many women are going to drink that?
None.
How many can we find? Well, you're going to find at least one.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be one.
Yeah, there is the Appalachian snake handlers. There's always people willing to literal interpretation of the Bible.
You know what? The Appalachian snake handler has my respect.
Because he's taking it seriously.
Because they took it seriously. They took it seriously, and they truly believe that, look, I am blessed by God. I have an anointing over me. The Bible says as much, and I know I can proceed with this and be safe. Now, I don't know if they try drinking deadly poison, and I certainly hope they don't. I don't want those people to get injured, even injured. I don't even want the snake to get injured. Right? But they truly are invested. That person is truly faithful. And what can I say? What can I say if that's where they are? I do feel like you hear me say, if you're going to claim you're a Christian, I'm going to hold you accountable, because when I was a Christian, accountability was a big thing.
Yeah.
In the circles that I ran in. Are you accountable for what you say? I have a friend who I met through a church that I was going through. And I remember when he was borrowing money from me. The guy makes $2 million a month now. Right? He don't borrow money from me anymore.
Right.
But he might be able to tell me about Ellis swapping a 1969 Firebird. He might be able to have.
Yeah, he might be able to help out. Hey.
He can help a brother out.
Yeah.
I would gladly take his help.
Right.
I actually have a project that I'm working on for him that I need to finish. But there's something about how I saw him come from where he wasn't as accountable, and he really embraced it, and he really became a remarkable guy who is super reliable and very accountable. And he had it on his business card. He had it on his email. Like, you can hold me accountable for the promises I make.
Wow.
That and to see that, and he was never a bad guy in my eyes, still isn't a bad guy, but to see him indoctrinate that and make that part of who he was, it was very powerful to me. And to see him literally keep his promises, and if he could not, he certainly would find out, what do you need for me to make this up to you?
To be honest, there was
YouTube punk, $2 million a month.
There was that's crazy. I used to fantasize about that type of money when I was a kid, and now as a grown man, I won't even let myself have them type of fantasies. I'm like, nah, you can't even, don't even imagine that, bro. You can't even afford to imagine.
You never know where this YouTube thing can go.
Yeah, you never know. But a couple things this reminded me of. So one is, I had this tremendous conversation with the chief of police. I used to be the president of a medical marijuana organization when I was in college. And speaking of like, how do you take the other side seriously? Again, it's an opportunity. I remember meeting with him and asking him flat out, hey, why do the police wear riot gear during a football game? You know, like, we have a football game, we just won, we have to celebrate, and you guys come and you got the riot gear and the shields, and, you know, it's making us feel kind of hostile. It's making us feel like, it kind of gives us Gestapo look. And I'm asking him as a 19, 20-year-old, I'm asking the chief of police this to his face, right? Mm-hmm. He says to me, well, you know, I've been doing this for many years, and after you have to place a call to a family and explain that the officer is in critical condition because some student dropped a bottle on their head from a third-floor building, I'm like, yeah, so them helmets are real essential, I see, right? In other words, being able to put myself in the position, talk to the other side, take it seriously, he blew my mind. And what he just like, here, let me drop a little police chief reality on you. Yeah. A little bit of police chief reality on you. And it changed the whole way I engaged police for years and engaged other students. I was like, look, yes, I want marijuana to be legal. Yes, I want the police to not be scary. But now I was talking to students like, look, y'all got to understand where they coming from too. You know, most of them are Penn State students. They're just trying to get home safe to their family. So this act of perspective taking is super important. It reminds me of Daryl Davis, I think, or whatever it was, the black guy with the Klan leader and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If I was given that opportunity, I would take it. I would take it because you're never going to really get another chance. You got, right? If they really like, hey, come to the cross burning, barbecue afterwards. We promise we're not going to hang you on the stake. You know, like you'll never get a better educational experience, right? And so that's why I tell a lot of atheists, if you can stomach it, go back to church. Because one, you're going to really, really understand what they're saying and doing. And the other thing is you're going to have the opportunity to have those conversations where people will have those conversations with people that go to their church, but they won't. The other thing it made me think of was a Dunning-Kruger effect, right? I'm a second generation in politics. My dad hosts a political talk show called Meet the Leaders on Cablevision. I'm plugging my dad's show. All right, but he's also worked on campaigns my whole life, literally for over 35 years. I've been working on campaigns my whole life. Cory Booker, he's a U.S. Senator, presidential candidate, is a strong mentor of mine. Always had me on his campaigns, his transition team, City Hall. You have very real perspective. So what happens? We don't want no parts of it, right? We're qualified. We got people that would back us. I'm politically connected. Yo, they're like, Corey's like, Jay, anytime you want to run, say the word. Tell me what you want to run for. I got you, right? I could literally have that. But I know.
Yeah, I have someone who said that to me too.
Right, but you know the responsibility it comes with. You know, oh man, it's a crazy hours. It's a lot of stress. It's a ton of accountability, right? That word accountability. You know you can't run for office without being held accountable. So now you're like, they're going to be all up in my business. They're going to be all up in my past. But these other people, right, like I said, it's like a Dunning-Kruger thing. They don't have no real experience. They ain't really ever been involved in politics before. Looks fun on TV. Hey, I think I'm cute and I got a lot of followers on social media. I bet you if I ran for office, I'd get even more, right? So it almost seems like the people who really know what's up are like, yeah, I don't know if I can afford them type of headaches. But the people who are clueless are like, sign me up, you know, like.
I've said to friends for years, it's based on name recognition alone. If people saw my name on the ballot, they would vote for me even if they had no idea who I was because they would think they knew me. I have one of those plain
You do.
names,
You do. You have a very, I won't mention it, but you have a common first name, generic last name. And also, I probably a lot of people just assume you're a white guy. There's no racial, like my name's pretty, you know, Jason Bundy. It's a pretty neutral term. My name is Shaquan Jackson. You'd be like, oh, that's a black dude. You know what I mean? No. Is it really? No. But yeah, I totally agree. People, you have a very good name, very electable name.
Very electable name. And
although I gotta be honest with you, I'd rather vote for somebody who went by my one black friend on the ballot.
Either one. My one black friend in parentheses.
Yeah.
I know that guy. My friend. I'm going to vote for my friend. Thank you, Mr. Friend.
I love B.S. Lewis's quotes. If you want to understand the justice system, go to prison. So you know what that reminds me of? I just saw this thing recently where I would vote for one so people wouldn't think I'm racist. Hey, that's it. B.S. Lewis, you just brought up a really powerful political strategy. Just like religion is useful, white guilt is useful.
I would never want to campaign if you don't vote for me, you're racist. But
hey,
who want to vote for someone else are not racist.
Hey, a means to an end. Hey, if it works though, if you got some good ideas, hey, I used to joke that
idea is my one black friend. Just put my name on there as my. Friend.
I used to joke that, hey, like I don't want to be super corrupt, but I can't do all these good things that people want me to do unless I get elected. So that means I got to do whatever it takes to get elected, right? You can't do the job if you don't get the job.
No. You have to. You literally have to be above it. That's
yeah, you do.
Truth.
You really do, and that's the tough part.
And I think there are people like, and I don't know a lot about Bernie Sanders, but from what I've heard when I've heard him speak to his peers, right? He's trying to get them to say, like, to get that we don't work for these companies, we work for the people.
Yeah. I think he's phenomenal.
The companies might have given you financing. Oh, I'd eliminate that. If I ever got off,
absolutely.
You couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, couldn't do that anymore. That'd be done.
Yeah, and I'm so radical about it. I said no. There would be a base salary for all politicians in the United States, and then there'd be apps where you could pay additional amounts to their salary, maxing out at a certain number, but you could never donate more than $10.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like public funding. I'm a Citizens United needs to get overturned day one type of guy. I'm like a what is it? Did I wake up? It's my second day at office and y'all still haven't overturned Citizens United. All right, let's take care of this right away. You know, I can't be in office 3 days with this, this policy here. So the one thing that the prison comment reminded me of is I just saw a thing that R. Kelly is suing, I think, the state of New York for, I guess, the horrible conditions that he saw for Suicide Watch. Like, if you're in certain condition, like when you get locked up, they'll put you in Suicide Watch. I've been on Suicide Watch, actually, because I got arrested one time. I'm bipolar, so that probably wasn't helping me any. But I remember the intake lady asked me, have you ever thought about committing suicide? I said, hasn't everybody thought about it? Right? I thought she was asking me a very serious, like, philosophical question. You see what I'm saying? She's like, have you ever thought about it? I'm sitting there like, well, hasn't everybody thought about it? No. You can't tell the prison intake people that. Like, so I ended up on Suicide Watch. And at least for them, with Suicide Watch was there's no bed, because they basically have to remove anything you can use to commit suicide. So there's no like bedding, and every prison's different, but the one I was in, right? There's no bedding, there's no blankets or anything, because you could, I guess, hang yourself with any of this stuff, right? So you're literally in the room, you're laying on a metal slab. I almost felt like I was asked to sleep on like the meat counter at the deli counter at a grocery store. You know, they always got that big metal counter with the weights that they're slicing everything. That's what it felt like you're sleeping on, okay? And then there's like a toilet, maybe like some toilet paper, and like that's it. Like, it's the worst. There's no entertainment, there's no nothing until you get into like Gen Pop. So I literally would tell them
to be entertainment anyway. And
I would literally tell people, I wasn't suicidal before, but nothing will make you consider suicide stronger than being on Suicide Watch. The great irony is, if they're worried about you committing suicide, they will put you in a situation that definitely you will not want to live through, okay? And so to me, I should have gotten an award, because surviving that proved that I was not suicidal. Because if I was anywhat suicidal, that would have done it to me. All right, so, but in all seriousness, I said, this is what R. Kelly should be doing, right? Is you're locked up, he's messed up, but he does still have a lot of celebrity. I'm sure he'll probably release an album at some point, and all the proceeds will go to his victims and go to some charitable stuff. And I would be, I would be down with that. I could use some more R. Kelly bangers. But truth be told, I'm happy if he's gonna use his celebrity, right? Like, be in there and draw attention to, bad conditions in the prison, or the plight of prisoners. How I always joke how criminally America treats its criminals. But I was kind of like, I'd actually be happy to see that, right? I'd actually be happy to see some of these celebrity prisoners really help us get some meaningful prison reform. I don't know if it'll do it, but I was actually thought that was good. Did I try giving up?
Make every elected official spend a week in jail or prison. Spend a week there.
I actually said that. I actually used to think,
so we're going to make you as comfortable. You will have you will be as comfortable. The most comfortable person in the prison will be you. But you just have to be here because you can't help but to see what it's like for other people.
Yeah, I used to say this a lot. I used to joke because I wanted to be a prosecutor even after all that. That's what I was training for in the city of Newark. And, you know, I would joke that I would say I'm trying to learn the system from all sides. Right. But I thought, you know, as somebody who wanted to be a prosecutor, it's really valuable for me to have been locked up because I know what it means to send somebody there. I know what you're asking of them. I know what it's like. I know, you know, and again, obviously I wasn't locked up for 8 years. I don't know what that's like. But yeah, I would say that if you're going to be in this system and you're going to have the power to send somebody there, you should absolutely have to know what it's like, what you're sentencing them to, because otherwise, and I say this a lot, I hear this a lot just in political discourse where people talk about, oh, well, if you did this, you should go to jail for it. If you did the crime, you should do the time. And I immediately think this person they've definitely never been there. They probably don't even know anybody that's really been through this because it's cheap words. It's so easy to say. It's so easy to say.
Lots of things are very easy to say.
Yeah, and it's like you also have no idea how much it could be you. So let's bring up that. That's a great segue. One of the things that people are outraged now about Roe v. Wade, that as black folks we're used to being criminalized, is they're now trying to lock down the interstate travel, right? So they overturned Roe v. Wade. A bunch of states had trigger laws, which is not gun control. Trigger laws means that once the Roe v. Wade was overturned, those states already had laws on the books that made abortion illegal. And so immediately abortion became illegal in those states. That's what's meant by the term trigger law. So now a lot of these states, it's already illegal. And what they're really trying to do is get the federal government now to crack down and say, hey, if it's illegal to get an abortion in Missouri and you want to go travel across state lines to whatever state borders Missouri, I'm not looking at a map right now, you know, that's a federal crime, right? And so, again, this gets to what I was saying now. A lot of these prosecutors and judges and politicians, like you've even heard Republicans say stuff like, oh, well, women should be held harmless in this whole thing. We don't want to criminalize women. This is Republican double talk. You just criminalized the behavior. So what are you talking about? You want to put a law on the books to make something illegal, but you don't want to be unpopular. So now you're trying to, so folks, pay attention. This is what they're going to be doing, right? But this is the new game, people. Like now traveling across state. And here's the key. Here's the key. If abortion is illegal in Missouri, right? And you get an abortion in Missouri or somebody helps you get an abortion in Missouri, like that's a bad thing, right? Because it's against the law. You could be in a lot of trouble, okay? But more than likely, the highest level of consequences you will face is the state law because you will have violated the state law of Missouri. No, folks. If these Republicans get their way, right, and you travel from Missouri to the next state over to get an abortion, hello, welcome to the drug game, folks. That's a federal crime now because you have crossed state lines and you have involved more than 2 states, right? There's the state you left where the abortion was illegal, the state you went to where it was legal, okay? And so now it's a federal thing, okay? So a lot of these people who talked a lot of trash. Oh, well, if you did the crime, you should do the time. And, oh, well, you shouldn't do drugs if you don't want the jail time. Well, now a lot of people are going to be looking at federal sentences because they didn't want to be pregnant.
I want to go back to
Go ahead. I'm good.
I want to go back to my question to Sean McDowell. I'll talk about this because I think I can give some insight into what will probably happen in mass. Sean McDowell, on June 24th. Roe is overturned. Amazing. I honestly never thought I would live to see the day. My reply, would you be willing to adopt an unwanted child and pay for higher taxes to cover the cost of raising and educating unwanted children? Sean McDowell, whether I would or not is irrelevant to the fact that abortion unjustly ends the life of a preborn human being. So here we go. Sean, I guess a way to think of it is the mother isn't willing to take responsibility on her own, right? Because often on these abortion cases, we don't know what the will of the father is.
Right.
And in an abortion, we know a mother could just walk away and end up somewhere else.
Right.
But a mother might also, I talked to someone about this. She was threatened by the would-be father of the baby. She was threatened. So that's a crime. In the way that things are framed now, it seems like she could be defended against the father while, but for how long does that last? Are you going to get that guy to pay child support? The mother wants to go ahead and have the baby. Is the father going to have to pay child support? He was against it. Should he be obligated to pay child support?
See, I think what you're touching on.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I won't cut you off.
I got to get it all out before I forget because I'm not.
No, you're good.
Like I usually do. What we're going to see is people leaving the country, and they're going to go somewhere like Holland, and they're going to be like, "Wait a minute, it's clean. I feel safe here. I'm going to learn their language, and I'm going to see if they'll let me stay." Because they probably weren't a corporate person making $140,000 a year. They probably were working at Target.
Or else this wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah. Likely they would have been happy to have their kid and buy their kid Gucci things. But it's probably somebody working at Starbucks, Target, with no job at all, not making a lot. And they just use their credit card to fly to another country and stay in a hostel and get an abortion there. And then when they realize, well, if this is an English-speaking country, why don't I just see if I can start all over here? And they'll probably be welcomed to stay, or they'll start dating someone in that country, and then they won't have to leave. Why? Because they have a place to stay. They can get a job working on the side and completely be hidden from government. Like when I was in Bulgaria, I was amazed at the number of people that had been there 20 or 30 years with no immigration paperwork other than their visa to get in. And they live there now. They have families there now. They just stayed. Bulgaria is pretty wonderful when I was there, I have to say.
But it wasn't a stress situation. They weren't worried. The government wasn't breathing down their neck. They're just chilling.
No. And some of them had jobs where their income was reported and things like that. The ones I worked with did, but they told me about people like, yeah, they're off the books. They get their money off the books and they stay. We know that happens here.
Right.
Because people come here seeking.
But the problem is when it happens here is they really will crack down on it and deport you and all this other nonsense because we're crazy.
But I guess my point is that method of making it a federal crime will save some lives. And then there are going to be people who lose family. They'll never see their family member again because they'll go to Canada.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Someplace like Canada, or they'll go to Canada is probably the easiest place to go to because you're still close to home. Your family you're kind of convenient geographically to them still. In Canada, the people there are so lovely. Like you'll probably be hugged by Apologia at the border.
Right.
Or something like that. Him and Shannon Q, you can stay with them.
Yeah. Hey, Apologia, I'm coming over. I need a welcoming party. I need y'all there at the border. Yeah.
No couch for you. We give you a room. It's Canada. You can have your own house for free.
Yeah.
Something like that. But, I think that's what we're going to see. People are going to be leaving for that reason.
So this brought up a couple things. Number one is I always say they're attacking all of our reproductive rights. And I really think that even the the pro-life Christians don't want this law. I think a lot of times, because it takes away everybody's reproductive rights. So I think a lot of times now, if you are a pastor and you get your secretary knocked up, or you're an apologist and you have an affair, right? To be honest, I think you want that person to be able to have the right to terminate that pregnancy, and they no longer do. Hang on, I gotta just exit Discord over here because it keeps beeping in my ear. It's quite annoying. All right, so that's kind of my take on that, right? So number one is this really affects everybody. And I think a lot of, like you brought up with the child support, right? So when I was doing like political stuff in Newark, this was one of my big issues. And I had an uncle who passed, but he had he has like 9 or 10 different kids. Almost all by different women, right? And he was a professional church musician, so all these women were choir, churchy women of God, supposedly, right? But some of these kids, we didn't find out about till they were 9, 12, 13, 15, right? And what would happen is, you know, since my grandparents are kind of like well-to-do and they retired nicely and they lived in the suburbs and they ran the church, right? It was kind of like, oh, times get hard, you know, try to get in there with the priesters, right? Like, you know, there'll be some support for your kid. But we felt like my mom, myself, and we felt like we had to protect our grandparents, protect my uncle, because it felt like, you know, people were just coming up out of the woodworks. And then all of a sudden they're demanding, you know, child support and all of this stuff. And it's like the family felt like we're kind of being exploited here. These people, you know, they didn't care to be part of the family for the first 10 years of this kid's life. We had no idea they existed. They fall upon financial hard times. Now all of a sudden they want us to support them. And we didn't like that. But to your point, those were his kids. And what my mom started to do, and like I said, he's passed, but she kept telling him, you need to take a paternity test. You need to take a paternity test. Because because my family's too Christian. If you show up to the house and you say, hey, this is Jason's baby, you know, to my grandparents, they're going to take care of it. They're not going to make you get a test or whatever, right? Because they don't think like that. They think like they're too godly, right? So they think, oh, God brought us another grandchild. We can't deny it. That's our grandkid, right? My point is to say all of this is it's not just women who are going to be forced into parenthood. You're going to have a woman who's forced into parenthood. You're going to have a guy who did not want the baby or would not want the baby or would not tolerate. They're going to have a falling out. She's not even going to tell him she's pregnant, probably, right? She's pissed. She's dealing with this on her own. Oh, shit, now she can't get an abortion, so she has the baby. 9, 10 years later, she decides, hey, look, this raising a kid by myself thing's a little tougher than I wanted to. Hey, that really steady job I had at the grocery store, you know, I just got replaced by one of them self-checkout machines. You know, hey, times are hard. I need to hit him up. Now he gets hit up not just for the child support currently and going forward. He gets hit with what the court calls rears. The court goes, no, you owe her like 10 years of child support. You ain't been paying. So now you got to pay that. And here's something women don't like to hear me say. But it's true. As a result of your bodily autonomy and the fact that you, this has just changed. But prior, when Roe v. Wade was the thing, the big difference was that a woman's freedom was never at stake. Right? A woman could say, I want to have the baby, and she could have the baby. And if the man didn't want to have the baby, he could end up having to pay child support. If he doesn't pay child support on the baby he doesn't want, he can go to jail. Okay? Now the situation has messed the whole thing up, where if the woman wants to get rid of the baby, she could be criminalized for wanting to get rid of the baby, right? So now she will keep a baby she doesn't want. Well, now she's now forced to have a baby that the man doesn't want. And so by having that, like, he could get criminalized later if he's not supporting the baby that she didn't even want to begin with. Like, people don't realize it's a mess for everybody. Go ahead.
Look, in California, and I don't know how it is the rest of the country, you could go take your newborn baby and turn that baby in at the police station, at the fire station, and say, yeah, I just had this kid and I don't want her. So is there something I need to sign? Because I'm not leaving here with her. And they are supposed to take possession of the child. Then a social worker is called up who gets someone who will be a foster parent to that baby until that baby is found a home. They do that in Los Angeles. And right. I mentioned when I had went to the program to learn more about the adoption program, there weren't enough children in the system for all the people that wanted to adopt them. That's fantastic.
Yeah, of course.
That's probably not indicative of every community, though. Look
Yes.
at how many people live in Los Angeles on sheer numbers alone. That
Right.
should be the problem. There aren't
Right.
enough babies
Right.
for all
It
the
seems
families
like
that
at least
want
the
them.
story you hear of most orphanages is there's a whole bunch of kids in the orphanage and there isn't enough people willing to adopt them, which is why they're all stuck in the orphanage, right? So
That's right. Like
so you're
Wayne
saying that
Dyer
that's
was
a
that
total
way.
different, yeah.
Well, maybe not Wayne Dyer, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. I forget his name. I met that guy, and he told me like he was in an orphanage, and he thought they had it pretty good in the orphanage. They could do what they
Right.
want,
Right.
that sort of thing. So there is I guess if you want to educate, rather than allowing Jesus and prayer in school, which believe me, they open up a can of worms. Good luck putting Pandora back in the box on this one, folks, because now those Muslim teachers are going to pray, and now those Hindu teachers are going to pray, and the Buddhist teachers are going. I don't know what they're going to do. Probably pray. That sort of thing. You're gonna see the others come out of the woodwork, celebrating their faith publicly to their class, and then those kids are going to. What's going to happen to most of those kids? They're going to get inoculated, or as Barney on the Andy Griffith Show said, inoculated. They're going to get inoculated and have no religion at all.
Absolutely. This is I love this example too. There's already been a 10-year-old who had to go to another state to get an abortion. They called her every type of whore in the book. I mean, what do you even say in a case like this? Like, how is this even reality?
See, and what's the rest of that story? Was this child abused?
They're 10. I mean, I don't think there's a way that they weren't, right? There's no way in which they weren't.
The details have to matter. So I think what's the Bible say? Again, this is me wanting, I guess I want it both ways. I think I have to admit that. I want to not be a Christian because I think that there wasn't a Jesus, and that these are just stories that people took way too seriously. And yet at the same time, the people who believe there was a Jesus and they say they follow him didn't take him seriously enough. I think I have to admit that. I want it both ways. Right. I guess that's just a sad fact. Because even Sean McDowell, paragon of hairstyling, and seemingly an all-around nice guy.
Him and what's his name? Cameron Bertuzzi, right?
Yes, exactly. I guess he is not without the ability to be disappointing. Like, I'm going to have to write back to him saying, I am truly disappointed in your reply. And Jesus would be too.
Yeah. Like, wait,
I have a choice.
Do you find
as a Christian, I think he has the obligation and not me.
Do you find him easy to engage with on the internet?
I think my only reaction with him has been on Twitter, and good on him for responding to me. And this isn't the only time he did. So I applaud him for that, because I can't imagine that the guy's not super busy. Other apologists, I don't really reach out to them. This guy I did, because he seems so darn approachable. Let's see. Anyone get a sense Sean McDowell is gay or bi? I don't know. I don't have gaydar.
I was gonna ask you though, like, you should see if you can engage with him and get him to come on and talk to us. I don't know if he will, but I just think it's funny. At least
maybe he will, now that he said this, because I don't know how Twitter works. I don't know that he sent this just to me. But imagine if he didn't. If this is broadcast, because one other person did respond, and that's I'm Not Peachy is their name. I'm not surprised you answered that, since you don't believe in card dating. Okay. So this person is clearly, to some degree, not surprised at Sean's response. But if Sean broadcast this to his Twitter followers, I got to believe a lot of Christians would be shocked. It's irrelevant. Whether I would or not is irrelevant.
Right. I don't. Yeah. You
can't just memorize your favorite verse, folks, it doesn't work that way. If it was that way, I'd only need to know two of them: my former favorite verse and my current favorite verse from the Bible. I just had to know those two things, so that my head were waters and my eyes a fount of tears. Okay, that's all I have to remember. Or now I'm with thee according to thine own heart. I mean, okay, that's all I have to know. The rest of it is commentary, and not even good commentary.
Exactly.
Right? If I wanted to believe, I could decide to believe that way. But I approach it with respect that people are choosing to have what the Bible puts forth as a Christian lifestyle. I think I need to get over that.
All right, can you give me? Hang on one second. My one black friend. Hang on one sec. All right, Satan's little helper. Something recently is going on. So something that's happened is that we've had a lot of bots coming through with like spammy links, and so there are certain words that the bot now will time you out for using, and whore is one of them. So what needs to happen, Satan's little helper, is I'll add you to a list of approved users, and when you're on the list of approved users, the bot won't filter out your words anymore. So don't take that personally. Just give me a sec. I had to figure out which channel you're on. I think you're on the Pocketlocker86 channel. Just make sure your next comment is fine, and I'll add you to the approved user list. That goes for anybody else out there. Like those of you that are regulars, once we know you're a regular, I'll add you to our approved user list. You'll be able to say whatever you want on YouTube, but it helps us keep the bots out. So it's literally not to get rid of you guys. That's why I made it so it doesn't ban you. It'll just put you in timeout. So Satan's little helper, just let me know, and I'll add you to the approved users list. And give me a minute over the next couple weeks. I'll add everybody else to the approved users list as well. All right, cool. Did you say be right back, my one black friend?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Or should I say, be right black?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and we'll wrap when you get back. Yeah, so I appreciate all you guys. We'll probably wrap shortly after my one black friend gets back, just to let you guys know about what else is going on. I will be live streaming from OBS on the Pocketlocker86 channel, probably starting around 5:30 today. I just have to get some stuff set up and switched over so I can live stream from my PS4. Tonight at, let me pick a time. I guess we'll go with 11. Tonight at 11 p.m. on the Jay Bundy channel, I'll be doing audiobook commentary for the Christopher Hitchens book, God Is Not Great. I believe we're on chapter 8. So again, that'll be 11 p.m. Eastern on the Jay Bundy channel. And I'll also live stream that on the Pocketlocker86 channel. So if you're over there, you can just hang out. And then after that, I'll probably do an after party. And mostly for that, I'll be working on behind the scenes stuff. Like perfect examples, I need to get my One Black Friend's Restream access hooked up. I need to get the bot going for Hot Program. Probably need to tweak some stuff. Maybe I'll remove horror from the filtered words list and stuff like that. I don't want it timing out our regular users. Oh, you're dead inside. Great. Thank you so much, Satan's little helper. And like I said, I'll make sure I add you to the approved user list. What we basically, just so you guys see how my content is going, we've had a lot of bots. We've had a lot of jerkers and people hack into the Discord and pretend to be me and send perverted pictures and sexual links. And, I try not to be deterred by that stuff. So the black hearts, I love that. So what I've trying to cultivate is like a members only vibe, right? Where if you go in the Discord, the way my Discord will be set up is that, the bots are on every channel, exactly. So the Discord will be set up when you join the Discord, you'll be on a probationary role. You won't be able to do anything other than read the rules and react to the rules, and then you'll become a guest, in which case you'll have incredibly limited access until one of us makes you a member. And once you become a member, you can do whatever you want pretty much. And we'll do our channels the same way. We know a lot of the regulars. We see you guys on other channels. We interact with you throughout the week on various channels and other podcasts and stuff like that. So we'll add you guys to the approved user list. You can have fun in the chat and say whatever you want. But bots and people that are new, one, they have to subscribe to the channel before they can comment. They got to be subscribed, I think, for 5 or 20 minutes or something like that. And then there's a bunch of filtered words that if you use basically foul words or dirty language, you'll get timed out. And that allows us to sort of prevent the bots and people spamming our chat until we know them and they're trusted. And as you guys can see, for the most part, our chat's been a lot cleaner today. We haven't had any spam links or bots and stuff like that. So we're still tweaking. The other thing I want to do is quickly thank my OneBlack Friend, Tux, No Name. I'm really into the streaming stuff. I'm really into the technology. I actually find it fun to deal with the technology challenges. Most of my co-hosts don't. But making a better streaming experience for you guys, improving our content requires change, right? Like I can't make things better or make things work smoother without changing how things work. And so I always am throwing new change at my co-hosts and stuff, and they kind of roll with it. And it takes some time because every time you change something, it takes a little bit of time to get it worked out and get it smooth. And so I just want to thank everybody for their patience with me, and being, just kind of rocking with us and being flexible. And we are trying to get everything worked out so it's smooth and that we're promptly starting the show at 3:30 every Sunday. We want to be regular for you guys so you can kind of count on us and get us locked into your schedules there. But now that my OneBlack Friend is back, I'll ask him to any thoughts. I have a 5:30, so I want to go ahead and close this out, but I'm going to turn the floor over to you to, you got a few minutes, whatever you want to say.
Sure, and thank you. I'll have to watch some, if you would be kind, send me some tutorials on YouTube on how to do all this.
Yeah, we'll get the restream thing going. Yeah, no worries. It's a great idea.
I had to send someone, I guess, warning for us all. As a teenager, I was the one who always helped out my elders with technology and things like that to help them understand it and use it. And I couldn't figure out why they don't get it. And just yesterday, I sent someone with money via an app that has 3 options: send money, request money, or look at your activity.
Right.
And this person could not figure out how to request money from me. I'm like, but it's just one of the 3 options.
Right.
You should be seeing. She still just didn't have an easy time with it. And then here I am today fussing with Restream because Restream has very few options. And there I was unable to pick one that would get me here. So thank you, Pocketlocker, for sending me an invite. And I just want to say to our audience, as you get older, take up the technological challenge and figure these things out. Figure out what you're going to need, and don't be afraid of them, and don't be so old school that you don't want to do it. And I think I had my experience with that today, because I'm telling myself, you know what, figure this out for yourself, because it may be useful otherwise. And Pocketlocker pointed out that I could start the show early or log in, whatever, and maybe I have technical difficulties that I could figure out in that time. And one of the commenters who gets there early could straighten me out, like, hey, I can't hear you, your volume's off, or you're on mute, or something like that, I think I need to embrace that that's an opportunity that I have. So I guess I should say that in addition to prayer in school, public prayer, we know the thoughts of Jesus on that one. If he existed, he was against it, but it doesn't matter because he's just some Yahoo from back in the day and irrelevant until you're dead and in line for judgment. When you're in the queue, if he doesn't see you on that OnlyFans list, you're in trouble. But as far as the abortion debate goes, if you know someone who's had an abortion and they're willing to talk about what they went through, it could be a good thing to listen to them just so you have perspective. Many of you have heard me say about one topic or another, my opinions are still forming on that one. This one, my opinions are not still forming. Like I have, yeah,
Sure.
I have very strong opinions, and I've had them for a long time, but still at a distance, to be completely fair. I've had friends who have had abortions, and they tell me about it, and I look at their face. Not my friend who was a prostitute. She was okay with it, but like in a reflective way.
Sure.
But the other women in my life who tell me about it, they all seem to share a level of remorse and also assurance that it was the right decision.
Yeah. Yes.
And I don't judge them
tough.
for making. Yeah, I don't know how tough it is to make that call. You know, look, when it came time for me to, I had a car. When it came time for me to paint this '67 Mustang that I was restoring, it took me 3 years to pick a color. 3.
Right.
So, you know, I'm not in the right situation. I'm not the right dude.
Right.
I don't have the right personality to be making a judgment about should we or should we not get an abortion, because the timing is terrible.
Right.
Also, there's an economic toll that I think we didn't really get to discuss very much.
Sure.
That is important. If I'm from a family of many, many children, but if you took away one of those kids, and let's just make it me for ease of conversation, if you took me out of the picture, if my mother had gotten an abortion instead of having me, that means there are more resources for the people who are already in the family. So you don't have children fighting over the limited resources that their parents have. And though time is one of those resources, they're not fighting over that. They're not fighting over food. They're not fighting over clothing. As I said, we were this poor. The underwear I wore had 2 of my brother's names in it, scratched out with a Marks a Lot marker, and mine in there. So I'm getting 3rd generation underwear. Basically, that's how poor we were. Could that maybe not have been a factor if there was one less child? Could my brothers have had a better education if I wasn't, my brothers and my sister, if I wasn't around? Maybe my mother wouldn't have had to work so hard. Like, there's all these things that when you're on the outside and you're looking in, and like Sean McDowell, like, to me, he refuses to get involved.
Right.
He refuses. I guess I shouldn't say that. He refuses to make a difference, because cheering is being. He refuses to make a difference.
Right.
Another way, he may have his reasons for that. Generally, the reasons are, I don't want to give up my comfort, dude. Sorry. He might already have 3 children. He doesn't want to take away the resources from his 3 children by bringing another one into his household.
Right.
That he has nothing genetically to do with.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at Sean McDowell and I go, hypocrisy.
Absolutely.
Hypocrisy.
Absolutely. And I concur with all your thoughts. I especially want to touch on the technology thing. Like, I've been encouraging people in this for a while now. I think it's part of our nature is, you know, we're resistant to change. And anytime you're asked even to visit a new website, it's a new interface, it's a new platform, it's like a new relationship. But the thing on the other end won't talk to you or like help you or like encourage you in any meaningful way. So it's a weird relationship we have with technology. And to make a long story short, I just want to help people with it. So if you're thinking about starting a channel, but, you know, not really sure where to go or how to get started, I've got a channel in the Discord dedicated just to help people with this type of stuff. If anybody ever just wants to have conversations about these type of things, I'm happy to help people. Also, you can request a tutorial. I can send you some tutorials or even make you a tutorial if you want me to show you how I do things. Also, I love the conversation. I want to keep it going. Most weeks we'll be streaming from OBS, and when I transition to the after show, you guys will just be able to keep the conversation going, and nothing will really change. But today I need to change machines and get my thing going. So I'll have to pull down the streams for a few minutes. And like I said, I'll be back up in a few minutes. So if you guys want to just hang out where you're at on the Pocketlocker86 channels or tune in to Pocketlocker86, I'll be live in a few minutes. And like I said, I'll also do another live show tonight on the Jay Bundy channel. Otherwise, we'll be here next week at 3:30 p.m. Eastern for Hot Program. I'm hoping we'll have a guest. I think the guest thing is exciting. I'm going to call some more people and get some more guests. This was a good one, though, to just talk to each other about this. Yes. And next week we'll get some guests and hopefully some call-ins as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I guess my final thought on all of this stuff is just, this is just the beginning. They haven't stopped. They've moved really progressively, really strongly. They're going to keep doing so. I think we've got to take this all seriously, get ourselves very, very organized, and hold on to your butts, because there's more craziness coming down the pipeline, I'm sure. So with that, I'd like to tell everybody, just as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, be good to yourselves.
And each other.
All right. Poof.